Live from Arkansas streaming news leader, this is THV 11 Morning News at 7 on THV 11 Plus.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us here on THV 11 Plus for THV 11 Morning News. We're just gabbing. It's Friday, talking about funny things that kids and parents do, and it's Friday, so we're having fun. Lessons learned, and just here's a parent lesson for you today before we get to traffic. Put a coat on them because it's cold out there.
With your hoodie and shorts, just go ahead and put the coat on, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I've come to it. It's fine.
Is it big coat day yet?
Not big coat day yet. Okay. I mean, it's a good coat day, but
maybe the tie around later.
Not the gloves yet. Those boys may even wear pants on Sunday morning.
May I ask, with kids that are in teenage years and adolescence years, why the big coat? And you're not joking. I see it all the time. Shorts, flip flops, and then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man coat. And I don't understand.
And the little legs, just
and
walking along.
Yes.
In their
I don't know. I've given up on trying to understand it, and you just go with it.
And do you wear flip-flops too?
Yeah, but what I've told Jake back in the day was that I said, look, I just need you to take the coat because I don't need them judging me. Right? They're going to know those shorts were your decision. They're going to know I tried.
Right. That's all you can do. The boys are all about the hoodies, and then the girls will wear hoodies when it's 100 degrees outside.
Right. With the short shorts.
Right.
Yeah.
Really short shorts.
You're spot on. You're spot. I literally see them and I'm like, how are you not like dying in that sweatshirt?
The boys have shorts on in the winter, girls have hoodies on in the summer.
How's the traffic? Hot or cold today?
Traffic is medium right now, I guess. And unless you're in Conway, then I guess cold is bad. I don't know.
It might be steaming mad a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Sun is coming up. We're getting a better look at what's going on here on Interstate 40 eastbound. This is just east of Dave Ward Drive in Conway near mile marker 129. So this is affecting the left lane and the left and right shoulders. It looks like hopefully it's moving a little bit better right now than it was even just a few minutes ago, because it was at a standstill and moving at about 14 miles per hour earlier with this accident. Let's get a closer look at what's happening with our live traffic map and going there to see how slow it's moving right now. It looks like we have two icons up there, just ignore that, but 6 miles per hour still moving very, very slow with this accident here in Conway. Let's get a look at the drive time into downtown Little Rock, and it is definitely slowing down. If you're coming in from Conway to downtown Little Rock, 36 minutes. Still looks good though from Conway or from Cabot and Benton. Tracy?
All right, well, we've been talking about this cold weather that's headed our way, and again, still expecting that polar front jet to dip down into the southern portion of the United States and bring with it some very cold, frigid air, and that's going to last through next week. But we've got this coldest air of the season headed our way, so we've issued a weather impact alert for Saturday night into Sunday. With those lows in the teens, we're going to see wind chills that are in the single digits in the lower teens. So yeah, monitor the people, pets, and pipes. Again, streaming those faucets and making sure you've got all the coats on and the gloves and the scarves, and as you're heading out on Sunday morning, you'll certainly need it. This is what our temperatures are looking like. Sunday morning around 6 a.m. around 19 degrees. We're going to see again 11 in Clinton. Around the state it's going to be very cold. It looks like the warmest spot will maybe be 22 degrees. Very cold, and that's taking the wind chill out of the equation. But we're starting out this morning around 30. We are going to see that high today right around 55. Cold air, there it is. It's making its way through, and we're going to start to see it sink in over the weekend. We'll talk more about those possibilities coming up in a few minutes.
Developing this morning, President Donald Trump threatening to deploy U.S. military forces to Minnesota as protests persist in the Twin Cities over federal immigration enforcement. Demonstrations intensifying overnight after another confrontation involving ICE agents, part of a broader backlash following recent shootings tied to ICE operations in the Twin Cities. CBS's Jared Hill has the very latest.
Another night of intense protests in Minneapolis. Federal agents pinned one man down as they clashed with demonstrators. The latest spike in tensions comes after an ICE agent shot a Venezuelan migrant in the leg earlier this week. President Trump Thursday morning threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and send the U.S. military into the Twin Cities.
You have local and state leaders who seem to be encouraging violence and all of this madness. And the president's frustrated about it, and so are we.
That would probably lead to more violence.
As Minneapolis' mayor calls for cooler heads.
We cannot counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos.
Cell phone video shared by a Minnesota state senator appears to show another version of what happened after Wednesday night's shooting. In the aftermath, a woman calls 911 pleading for help. She says her husband, the Venezuelan migrant, whom authorities say was in the country illegally, was chased by ICE agents before he reached his home and was shot in front of his family. According to the Department of Homeland Security, he and 2 others attacked an agent with a shovel and broom handle, and the agent fired in self-defense. As that investigation and the protests continue, volunteers are stepping in to clean up.
We picked up water bottles, milk cartons, gas canisters, flashbangs.
Helping where they can when that help is needed most. Jared Hill, CBS News.
In Washington, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton is pushing new immigration legislation called the Deportation Acceleration Act.
The bill would make non-citizens automatically deportable after a felony conviction or 2 misdemeanors.
It also requires state and local law enforcement to report those convictions to the Department of Homeland Security. It shortens appeal deadlines and allows the federal government to withhold transportation funding from so-called sanctuary jurisdictions.
At the same time, the proposal offers federal grant money to states and local governments that follow the new requirements. Meanwhile, Governor Sanders is extending the deployment of Arkansas Army National Guard troops in Washington by another 90 days.
About 100 soldiers from the 142nd Field Artillery Brigade will stay in the nation's capital as they support D.C.'s National Guard with its civil security mission.
The deployment is federally funded and part of a rotating National Guard presence in Washington.
Time now 7:06. President Trump is facing pressure on 2 global fronts, tensions rising with Iran and political maneuvering intensifying over Venezuela. U.S. partners in the Middle East are urging restraint between Washington and Tehran after Iran's violent crackdown on protesters. The White House says Iran has paused hundreds of planned executions, but warns all options remain on the table if violence resumes. At the White House, Trump hosted Venezuela's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, who presented him with her Nobel Peace Prize medallion, a move he praised publicly. The meeting followed the U.S. capture of former Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro.
They have thus far met all of the demands and requests of the United States. The president likes what he's seeing and will expect that cooperation to continue.
With tensions rising, the Pentagon is now also releasing this video showing the U.S. military seizing a 6th oil tanker. Back here at home, a former owner of several Arkansas nursing homes is now out on parole less than a month after a judge sent him to state prison. Joseph Schwartz, who was recently pardoned by President Trump, has now been granted parole by the Arkansas Post-Prison Transfer Board, according to a public notification reported by the Arkansas Advocate. Schwartz had been serving time for state Medicaid fraud and tax evasion, separate from the federal fraud case that led to his presidential pardon. Attorney General Tim Griffin says his office is reviewing the board's decision.
North Little Rock police are investigating a shooting that left 3 men injured. Officers responding around 10:30 Wednesday night to the 1400 block of Division Street and found all 3 with gunshot wounds. They were hospitalized but later released with non-life-threatening injuries. Authorities have not released any suspect information and urge anyone with tips to contact the North Little Rock Police Department tip line. This investigation is ongoing. Meanwhile, Camden police have taken this man, Raymond Reagan, into custody after he allegedly posted threatening comments about the city's Martin Luther King Jr. parade on Facebook. Investigators tracked him down and secured an arrest warrant. He now faces a charge of making a terroristic threat. Police say officers will be on hand at the parade to ensure public safety.
THV 11 is your election central. For voters in Maumelle, this year's ballot may look a little longer than usual. A proposal to extend an existing half-cent sales tax could unlock funding for several major city projects, but only if voters approve it.
THV 11's Tamer Knight has more information on what residents need to know before heading to the polls. Tamer?
Well, Hayden, Karen, voters will have the opportunity to decide whether they want to extend a half-cent sales tax that's been in place since 2018. That decision could determine whether another 6 additional proposals will move forward. If you live in Maumelle, question 1 on the ballot is key. According to the city, voters will be the first asked whether to extend the existing half-cent sales tax. If that question passes, 6 more questions will follow, each tied to a specific project. Those projects include citywide road improvements, an indoor therapy pool, a new fire station, improvements at Lake Valencia, new turf for the community sports fields, and a new police and fire training facility. Some residents say they're cautious when it comes to renewing taxes, but these projects may be worthwhile.
All of those sound like they're probably worthy of public support for a community like Maumelle.
The decision is up to the residents, so just make sure you're super informed and come to the community meetings.
Now, the first of those community meetings is scheduled for January 27th, with 4 more planned. City leaders say if voters approve only some of the projects, the tax will stay in place for a shorter time, raising only the money needed for what passes. Early voting begins February 17th, with Election Day set for March 3rd. For THV 11 News, I'm Tamer Knight.
Tamer, thank you. With early voting approaching, the race for the Little Rock School District Board is ramping up, including major changes now shaped by a new state law. The law requires districts with fewer than 20,000 students to shrink their boards from 9 members to 5 or 7. Little Rock chose 7. That change triggered an immediate redraw of zoning maps. District enrollment has now dropped below 19,000 students, about 600 fewer than last year. Superintendent Dr. Jamal Wright says families will not be misrepresented and the smaller board will not distract from classroom goals.
Some who may have been concerned about certain portions of neighborhoods being left out of certain zones, or certain neighborhoods being split up by the way the zones were configured. And so the feedback that we got from our community actually resulted in the clean 7 zones that we have now. So any anxiety or fear of not being represented, I think all of those fears have been addressed.
The new map leaves 4 of the 7 candidates running uncontested. Dr. Wright is urging voters to show up at the polls this March. Now let's check in with Ashley King and look at the roads at this hour.
Yeah, good morning. We've had a mess this morning in Conway, so we've issued a traffic impact alert for an accident that has really slowed down traffic. We've got a big backup there. This is just east of Dave Ward on Interstate 40 eastbound. As you can see behind me, the traffic moving very, very slowly. It is off just to the right-hand shoulder now. It was in the left lane, left shoulder and right shoulder, but thankfully they've contained that all to the right shoulder. So traffic is moving just a little bit better, but still it's going to take some time for this to recover. Let's see how slowly it is moving at this time. Still moving at about 15 miles per hour, but hey, it was in the single digits a few minutes ago, so it looks like it's starting to increase just a little bit. This is around mile marker 129 again on I-40 eastbound. This is our drive times into downtown Little Rock. It looks like it's a little bit better if you're coming in from Conway into downtown Little Rock. Benton and Cabot still look great. Hopefully that means that we'll have a light traffic day, because this time yesterday, Tracy, we were already seeing some slowdowns in those areas.
Well, hopefully that mess in Conway and everyone's okay. It gets straightened out soon. Folks will be getting on the road here before long, and I know that'll slow some folks down. Now, we are talking about a weather impact alert. We've got some front that's pushing through, and that's going to reinforce that colder air that's already in place. We are starting to see again that secondary front and that wind starting to come from the north. Again, you're looking at south here in the southern portion, including what is moving into Little Rock. So not a lot of wind, but this does a great job of showing a wind direction. So I wanted to show you that as we are heading into hour by hour forecast. We're going to see those clouds increase a little bit. I think to our north we could see a stray shower. I don't expect much here in Little Rock, if anything. 54 for a high today, mid 50s. We will see again that wind shift and more northerly, and that's going to cool us off Saturday, starting off again in the 30s, and we're going to only warm up to around the low 40s, and those gusty winds do present a big danger for that fire risk as we're heading into the later part of the day again with those those gusty winds. So we'll talk more about this weather impact alert for that extreme cold and also the potential for maybe a little rain headed our way coming up in my forecast.